2500 BC. You were born in the mud of the Nile Delta. Your first breath smells of river water and wet earth. You are Egyptian. You are free. For now. Your father is a farmer. Brown skin, calloused hands, shaved head under a linen headcloth. He grows emmer wheat and barley on a narrow strip of black earth beside the river. The world your father knows is simple. The Nile floods, the Nile retreats, you plant, you harvest, you pay your grain tax, you survive. This is the contract with Egypt. It has worked for 1,000 years. You grow up barefoot in black mud. Your toys are clay hippos and wooden boats. Your school is the field. By age 6 you can spot the difference between healthy barley and blight. By 10 you work alongside your father. Your mother grinds grain every morning before sunrise. She kneels at a stone saddle quern, rocking forward and back, forward and back. This is her life. The stone is also slowly destroying her spine and knees. You eat bread. Always bread. Thick, gritty, full of sand from the millstone. Egyptians joke that you can tell an Egyptian's age by counting the worn-down stubs of his teeth. It is not a joke. Beer is not a luxury. Beer is breakfast, medicine, and currency. You drink it thick through a reed straw to filter the grain husks. A worker receives 3 to 4 jugs per day as part of his wages. Egypt runs on beer. Then one day, the scribe comes. He arrives at harvest time, which is not an accident. He carries a reed stylus and a wood-framed writing board covered in papyrus. He counts your grain. He counts your cattle. He counts you. The scribe announces, this year, the nome of the hair must provide 40 men for the royal labor levy. The Hecate, the Pharaoh's work. It is not slavery. They tell you this specifically. Several times. Your neighbor Ka laughs. The Pharaoh is a god, he says. Working for a god is an honor. Then the scribe writes Ka's name on the list first. Ka stops laughing. You are chosen. The flood season is coming, inundation, when the Nile rises and covers the fields. You cannot farm. So the state has decided your idle hands belong to the Pharaoh. Efficient. Terrible. Your wife ties a linen amulet around your wrist. Inside, a blue faience bead and a lock of your son's hair. She does not cry. Crying is for the dead. You are merely leaving for the plateau. You march north. A column of men from your village, farmers, potters, a sandal maker, a man who fixes boats. None of you have ever been more than 2 days' walk from home. You are all terrified and pretending otherwise. Then you see it. The Great Pyramid of Khufu. It is not finished yet, but it is already monstrous. You have heard stories. You thought people exaggerated. They did not. The plateau is a city. A real city. 20,000 workers, maybe more. There are bakeries, breweries, a copper workshop, a medical station, dormitories, administration buildings. This is not a slave camp. It is a construction town. You are assigned to a gang. Your gang has a name, the Friends of Khufu. Dramatic. Each gang has a foreman, a scribe, and a doctor. You are issued tools, a copper chisel, a wooden mallet, a smooth red diorite pounder. This is Egypt. Even the bureaucracy gets you ready to die. Your foreman is a man named Meritaten. He has the arms of a man who has moved stone for 20 years. He looks at your farmer's hands and says, good. Strong hands. You will carry water. Wait. What? Water carriers are the invisible army of pyramid construction. The limestone blocks cannot be moved without water. Wet mud and water-soaked wooden sledge runners are the low-tech secret behind moving 2.5-ton stones. You are the lubricant of civilization. The ramp is the only way up. It is made of mud brick, rubble, and limestone chips. It grows longer as the pyramid grows taller. By the time they reach the top, the ramp is longer than the pyramid is tall. Moving the stone and building the ramp are almost the same job. The sound of the plateau is unlike anything from your village. 200 copper chisels ring against limestone simultaneously. Wooden mallets pound. Foremen shout counts. A rhythm emerges from the chaos, like an enormous heartbeat made of stone and sweat. You are not carving the fine casing stones. Those are the white Tura limestone, smooth, polished, gleaming. Those require skilled stonecutters who have trained for years. You are moving the rough core blocks. The ugly hidden skeleton that nobody will ever see. The unglamorous immortality. Your first day you carry water until your shoulders stop working. You wake the next morning unable to lift your arms above your head. Your hands are blistered. Your feet are shredded by limestone grit. The foreman looks at you and says, good. Same tomorrow. The food, however, is shockingly good. You receive 10 loaves of bread per day, 2 jugs of beer, dried fish, roasted garlic, onions, and sometimes beef. You have never eaten this well in your life. Egypt feeds its workers. A hungry man cannot move stone. The medical station changes everything you know about the world. There are physicians. Real ones. with papyrus medical scrolls and actual knowledge of anatomy. Broken bones are set with splints. Wounds are cleaned with honey. Infected hands are saved with copper salts. The state needs you alive and functional. Your bunkmate is a man from the Delta named Nebwenef. He claims he is a boat builder, not a stone mover. He says this constantly. He says it while moving stone. Nebwenef tells you the stories at night. He has worked the inundation levee before. 2 years ago at a different site, an official's tomb near Memphis. He says the real danger is not the stone. It is the inspector. The inspector arrives at week 2. He is from the house of the vizier. He wears a pleated white kilt and sandals, which alone makes him terrifying. He counts the stones moved. He consults a papyrus. He frowns. The friends of Khufu are behind their stone count quota. The inspector records this on his papyrus. Meritaten's jaw tightens. He does not explain. That night he simply tells us, tomorrow we carry stone until the stars come out. Then we sleep. Then we carry stone until the stars go away again. You discover something about moving stone at night. The desert gets cold. Shockingly cold. You are from the Delta. You have never experienced true desert night cold. You have only a linen kilt and your own body heat. Nebwenef steals your blanket. You know it was him. He knows you know. Nothing is said. By the 3rd week your hands have transformed. The blisters are gone. In their place, a thick hide of callus. You can grip a rope so rough it would shred a new man's hands. Your shoulders have expanded visibly. The plateau is redesigning your body whether you agreed or not. The gangs compete. This was designed intentionally. The friends of Khufu versus the drunkards of Menkor. The gang of the boat versus the followers of the 2 feathers. Who moves the most stone? Whose count is on the quarry inscription? Who gets extra bread? The Pharaoh engineered motivation. You find out what the quarry inscriptions say when Nebwenef shows you one. Chiseled into the stone face above where your gang worked. For hieroglyphic signs. The friends of Khufu were here. 2,500 years from now, archaeologists will read exactly this and understand everything. The stone comes from Tura, across the Nile. The fine white casing limestone arrives by boat. You see the boats come in during flood season, enormous wooden barges, low in the water from the weight of the pale blocks. The river is their road. The river is everything. The hardest stone is not limestone. The hardest stone is the red granite that comes from Aswan, 800 kilometers to the south. It is used for the burial chamber inside the pyramid. Moving red granite is like arguing with a mountain. A mountain that has decided to crush you. One morning a man in your gang, Amenhotep the sandal maker, simply does not get up from his mat. The physician comes. He announces a cracked rib from yesterday's work. Amenhotep is taken to the medical station. He returns in 4 days on lighter duty. This is policy. An injured worker is still a worker. A dead worker is just a problem. You meet the architect's assistant. This is a cosmic event. He is young, scribal class, holding measuring ropes and a set square. He speaks to you directly, which already means something, and asks your name. You tell him. He writes it on his papyrus. You feel impossibly official. The architect's assistant explains the measurement system. The royal cubit. The length from the pharaoh's elbow to the tip of his middle finger, 52.4 centimeters. Everything, every block, every corridor, every angle, is calculated in royal cubits. The entire pyramid is one enormous, precise calculation. Every stone knows where it belongs. The pyramid is not built randomly. It is aligned to true north with accuracy that baffles modern engineers. The Egyptians used the stars, specifically the rotation of 2 circumpolar stars around the celestial North Pole. They built a device to watch the stars, found the midpoint of rotation, and called that north. Farmers who watch the Nile also watch the sky. You understand this. Month 3. You are promoted. Not dramatically. Not with a ceremony. Meritaten simply tells you to stop carrying water and start working the sledge team. You are now a puller, not a carrier. Your salary of bread increases by 2 loaves. You feel like a pharaoh. You are pulling stone upward on the ramp when the accident happens. The wooden sledge runner cracks. The block shifts. The man beside you, young, 17 maybe, from a village near Abydos, goes down. The stone does not care. The stone never cares. 8 men hold the ropes. 2 drag the young man clear. The sledge is restabilized. The young man's ankle is badly sprained but not broken. The physician wraps it. By the next day he is back on light duty, sweeping limestone chips with one leg bandaged. Egypt does not waste men. The young man's name is Khaimwazit. He tells you he volunteered. Nobody made him come. His father was too old and he came instead. You ask why. He says, the bread and the stories. You cannot argue with either. You ask Khaimwazit what he knows about why the pyramid is being built. He looks at you like you have asked why the Nile floods. Because Khufu is a god, obviously. Because when a god dies, his body must reach the stars. Because if the king does not reach the stars, the sun does not rise. The pyramid is not a tomb. It is a machine for becoming the sun. The priests control the interior work. Certain chambers you will never see. The king's chamber, lined with red granite, contains something even the foremen only whisper about. A sarcophagus of red Aswan granite, carved from a single block, placed inside the pyramid before the ceiling was finished. Because the sarcophagus is too wide to fit through any door. It has been inside since before the walls were complete. The pyramid was built around it. Word reaches the camp, the pharaoh is coming. Khufu himself will inspect the plateau. The camp goes into a kind of organized panic. New linen kilts are issued. The ramps are swept. The foremen suddenly remember how to smile. Egypt polishes its face for its god. Khufu arrives on a carrying chair. 8 men, royal household slaves, carry the chair on long poles. He is not enormous. Not 8 feet tall with fire in his eyes, as the stories say. He is a man of middle height, well-fed, wearing the double crown and a pleated kilt of extraordinary whiteness. But the silence that falls when he appears, that is divine. You are in the second row, forehead on limestone gravel, unable to see. But you can feel it. A kind of gravity that has nothing to do with the stone. When the pharaoh passes, the air feels different. Later you will not be able to explain this. You will try. Your children will stop playing and listen. The pharaoh stops near your gang section. He speaks to Meritaten. Briefly. Through an interpreter of the royal house. He asks how many stones were moved this week. Meritaten answers. The pharaoh nods once. It is the most important nod in history. Then it is over. The carrying chair moves on. The silence breaks. Someone exhales. Then someone else. Then the entire plateau exhales, and the hammering and shouting and scraping begins again as if a river unblocked. And Meritaten turns to you all and says, "Extra bread tonight." The pharaoh noticed. You have never been more proud of a block of stone in your life. Month 4. You have stopped counting days. The plateau has become your world. You know every ramp, every team, every water collection point. When a new levy of workers arrives from the delta, you watch them with the eyes of someone who has been here forever. You have been here 4 months. You become a rope handler. This is a specialization. You learn to splice papyrus ropes mid-pull when they fray, without stopping the team. The rope is as important as the stone. A broken rope kills people. You learn to read a rope the way you once read weather, by touch, by sound, by the minute changes that tell you when it is about to fail. Nebwenef finally gets reassigned to boat repair work on the Nile dock. He cries. Actual tears. Not from joy. He has been complaining about moving stone for months, and when they finally stop making him move stone, he weeps. He does not understand why. You do. This plateau does something to a person. The crisis arrives in month 5. A boat carrying Tura casing limestone capsizes in the Nile during a sudden northerly wind. 6 blocks lost to the river. 3 boatmen lost to the river. Work on the casing layer stops. The entire plateau holds its breath. An inspector from Memphis arrives. His face could curdle milk. The Memphis inspector reviews the tally papyrus. He makes sounds with his teeth. He reassigns 3 gangs from the casing tier to salvage operations. They dive for 2 weeks, retrieving 2 of the 6 lost blocks from the riverbed. Egypt's accounting system demands precision. If a block was allocated, a block must be found or explained on papyrus. While the inspectors argue over papyrus, you meet someone unexpected. Working the water-lifting gear beside the north face, a woman. Her name is Merit. She is the wife of a deceased master stonemason. She manages the women's team that grinds the grain for the bakery. She is visiting her father, a senior foreman. She is also, factually, the most competent person you have met on this entire plateau. Merit manages the feeding of 4,000 workers through the flood season. 4,000 people, 3 meals, every day, with grain logistics that would break a modern supply chain manager. She does it with 5 scribes, 9 bakery supervisors, a papyrus tally system, and what she describes as a healthy contempt for men who underestimate grain logistics. You ask Merit how many loaves they bake per day. She says without pausing, 86,000. You ask how she keeps track of that. She holds up her papyrus tally. You say you cannot read it. She says, I know. She goes back to work. Chaim Wazit advises you on the situation. He is 17 and has never spoken to a woman of merit standing in his life. His advice is therefore completely wrong and delivered with total confidence. You thank him. You do the opposite. Month 5, week 3. The inundation is beginning to recede. The Nile drops. The black silt appears at the edges of the fields. In your village, your wife is watching this. The retreating water means planting time. Planting time means you should be home. Your levy was supposed to last 3 months. You have been here 5. You speak to the scribe. You explain that your levy was 3 months. The scribe checks his papyrus. He finds your name. He makes a sound. He says, there was a reassignment. Extended levy for rope handlers due to the lost casing stones. It is regrettable. He is clearly not very regretful. You are regretfully recorded as extended. You are angrier than you have been since leaving home. Not because of the work. You were becoming proud of the work. Because no one told you. Because your wife is waiting. Because your son is growing. Because the state can simply extend you without asking. You are free. The papyrus says so. The papyrus also says you must stay. Merit finds you there. She does not ask what is wrong. She knows. She sits beside you and says, my husband died here. 2 years ago. A stone shifted. The physicians could not help that kind of weight. She sits with you for a while. Then she goes back to counting bread. Month 6. The pyramid grows. You can see it differently now than when you arrived. You understand it from the inside. You know which section your gang placed. You know the block where Amenhotep cracked his rib. You know the ramp where the young man's ankle broke. The pyramid is not limestone anymore. It is memory. The plateau shows you something about time. The Egyptians think in centuries. The quarry marks showing which pharaoh's workers cut which stone. The water level marks from past floods carved in rock faces. The name of a stonemason from 50 years ago still visible on a boundary stone. Your civilization plants seeds it will not harvest. This is either magnificent or terrifying. Probably both. You teach Kaimways at rope splicing. He is terrible at it initially. His fingers are clever for carving wood but struggle with fibrous papyrus. He practices every evening until his fingers bleed. Then he gets it. The moment he gets it, the moment the splice holds under tension for the first time, his face does something that reminds you of your son learning to walk. You did not expect to feel that here. The priests come through the camp one night with incense and ritual. They walk the perimeter of the construction site, chanting. The foremen make everyone stand back. You can smell the incense from 50 paces, kifi, the sacred compound. Myrrh, raisins, wine, honey, 12 other ingredients. The pyramid must be ritually protected. Even the stones need prayers. Then the news arrives from Memphis. Pharaoh Khufu is ill. Not mortally, but ill. The energy of the plateau changes within hours. The gangs work harder, not less. The foremen push the count. An ill pharaoh is an urgent timeline. If the pyramid is not ready when the god needs it, then all of it, will have been for nothing. 3 days of accelerated work. Then a messenger arrives, the pharaoh has recovered. The plateau exhales again. But now you understand something, this was never about individual stones. Every single block is connected to a god's afterlife. You have been building a resurrection machine. While complaining about your blanket. Month 7. Meritaten calls you aside privately. He tells you that when the current levy cycle ends, there will be a new classification available. Permanent skilled worker. Not seasonal levy. Not a farmer who moves stone for a season. A worker of the Royal Construction Office, with a permanent allocation of bread and beer, a better dormitory room, and a small monthly copper payment. You go back to your mat and stare at the ceiling of the dormitory. 40 other men breathing around you. The ceiling is mud brick. Somewhere beyond it, your farm. Your wife. Your son who is learning the difference between healthy barley and blight. Somewhere in the opposite direction, the only thing you have ever built that will outlast you. You find Merit the next morning. You tell her Meritaten offered you the permanent position. She does not look surprised. She says she knows. She is the one who suggested your name to Meritaten. You ask her why. She says, because you treat the rope like it matters. The ropes always matter. You think about the rope for a long time. The rope matters because if it breaks, people die. The bread matters because without it, 4,000 people fail. The stone matters because without it, a god cannot ascend. Everything matters here. Everything is connected. You have never worked somewhere before where you could trace the entire chain from your hands to the stars. Your farm fed your family. The plateau feeds eternity. You have not made your decision yet when the dispute breaks out. 2 gangs, over a sledge allocation. The drunkards of Menkor claim a sledge that the friends of Khufu had reserved. Words become shoves. The foremen arrive fast. But not quite fast enough. Kaimways gets punched in the face. He did not throw a punch. He tried to translate between the 2 foremen. He speaks 3 dialects of Egyptian, which apparently makes him the de facto diplomat of the plateau. He is very bad at this. He has a black eye and his diplomatic career is over. The dispute is resolved by the chief scribe of the plateau. He arrives, opens his papyrus, shows that the sledge allocation was clearly logged 3 days ago in favor of the Friends of Khufu, and looks at the drunkards of Menkor as if they have made a navigational error on a very short river. They return the sledge. The power of the written word. Month 8. The casing stones begin going on in earnest now. The white Tura limestone, polished to mirror finish, is being set on the lower courses. When a section is finished and the scaffolding pulled away, you can see your reflection in the stone. Egypt is building a mirror that faces the sky. You make your decision. You are going home. Not because the plateau failed you. Because it did not. Because you cannot explain to your son how the rope matters if you are not there to teach him. Meritaten accepts your answer without anger. He records it on his papyrus. You are replaced. The night before you leave, the gang has a small ceremony. Unofficial. Not in the records. Meritaten produces a jug of date wine, which is substantially better than standard issue beer. Someone has smuggled in a piece of roasted duck from the administrative kitchen. You do not ask how. Kaimwazit cries. He denies this immediately and attributes the moisture to the smoke from the lamp. Nobody argues. Merit finds you in the morning before you leave. She hands you a small clay seal, her administrative seal, used to mark bread allocations. She says, in case anyone on the road tries to take your recorded pay allocation papyrus. Showing this means you worked here. That you matter to the count. That you were part of this. You look at the tiny clay circle in your hand. You walk south. Your bundle on your back. The same road you walked north 8 months ago. Behind you, the plateau, the pyramid, the sounds of hammering and rope calls and the Nile boat horns. Ahead of you, your farm. Your wife. Your son. The narrow strip of black earth you have been thinking about since month 2. 3 days walk. You arrive in your village at dusk. Your wife is at the door of your house before you reach it, which means someone saw you coming on the road and ran ahead. Your son is behind her, taller than you remember, looking at you with the specific expression of a child examining a stranger who smells familiar. Your son does not remember what you smell like after 8 months. But he remembers that you told him to watch the barley for blight. He reports this immediately upon meeting you. The barley is fine. There is no blight. He sounds personally responsible for this. You think, he will do very well. You plant the season's barley. You fix the broken irrigation channel that collapsed during the flood. You remud the house wall on the north side. Farmers work. Slow work. Work that does not result in something you can stand back and look at. At night you tell your wife everything. The rope splicing. The sledge that cracked. Amenhotep's rib. Kaimwazit's diplomatic career. You do not tell her about Merit. But you tell her what Merit said, the ropes always matter. Your wife listens to all of this. Then she says, I know. You always cared about the ropes. You go back the next year. And the year after. You become a permanent skilled rope handler, just as Meritaten offered. You travel north at the beginning of the inundation each year and return when the Nile retreats. Your wife stops looking confused when you leave. She simply ties the amulet and gets back to the grinding. Kaimwazit has become a scribe's assistant. He kept practicing the hieratic writing he watched others do until someone noticed. His diplomatic career remains officially closed, but his literacy career is thriving. His black eye healed entirely. He mentions this often. Meritaten dies in year 4 of the construction site, not from an accident. He dies of a fever in the medical station. Quietly. With the same contained dignity he showed doing everything else. They bury him in the workers' cemetery just west of the plateau. His grave marker records his name, his title, and his gang. The Friends of Khufu. This is the most important thing he will ever have on a stone, and it is enough. You visit Merit that evening. She already knows. She says, he told me 3 years ago which section was his gang's work. He asked me to remember it. She points at a specific band of stones about 40 courses up on the east face. You look at those stones for a long time. The pyramid takes roughly 20 years to complete. You are there for 7 of them. In year 7, the capstone goes on. The pyramid ion, a single piece of polished granite, possibly gold-capped or electrum-capped, at the very peak. You cannot see it from the ground. Nobody on the ground can. But you know it is there. The machine is complete. That night the priests perform the opening ceremony at the pyramid's entrance. You are not invited. You stand outside the rope barrier with the rest of the workers and listen to the chanting echo off the white limestone face. The sound bounces in ways stone shouldn't allow. You feel it in your chest. You remember what Kaimwazit said once, the pyramid is a machine for becoming the sun. Tonight it sounds like it might work. Your last day on the plateau. You stand at the edge of the ramp with your tool bundle and your pay allocation papyrus and Merit's clay seal in your hand. The Friends of Khufu are already someone else's gang, led by a new foreman. The dormitory you slept in has new men in it. The plateau has already moved past you, the way the Nile moves past one particular reed. You teach your son to splice rope when he is 10. You don't tell him why this matters. You just tell him, everything is connected. The rope to the sledge to the stone to the sky. He looks at you the way children look at fathers telling them things that take 20 years to understand. That is fine. That is what fathers are for. Khufu dies. The records say the pyramid was ready. Whether this is true or approximate, Egypt does not discuss. The body of the pharaoh enters the pyramid in a ritual that takes 70 days of preparation and another 70 of ceremony. The god is installed in his ascension machine. The entrance is sealed. The pyramid is silent for the first time since construction began. You are old now. 50, which in 2500 BC is an achievement. Your knees tell you about the weather. Your hands grip anything rope-like with professional force. Your son is a farmer and also a trained rope handler who sometimes goes to the plateau himself. The second generation of your family working for the pharaoh's machine. You die in your house. In your own bed. Of old age, more or less, the accumulated weight of a body that moved stone for 7 flood seasons and farmed for 30 more. Your wife is with you. Your son is there. You still have Merit's clay seal. No one knows what it is. Your son thinks it is a lucky charm. He is not wrong. They bury you in the simple family plot beside the field. A mud brick marker. Your name in paint, not carved, because carved costs more. The paint fades in 3 years. After 5 years, the marker itself begins to dissolve back into mud brick. You were a free man who moved stone. Egypt has a million such men. The Nile does not record all its water. Meanwhile, the pyramid stands. In 2500 BC it is the tallest structure on Earth. In 2000 BC, still the tallest. In 1000 BC, still. In the year 0, Roman tourists come to look at it. Strabo writes about it. They scratch their names on the casing stones. Your stone, lower on the east face, is beneath the sand by then. By the medieval period, the white Tura limestone casing stones are being stripped off the pyramid to build Cairo. Every one of those polished stones your ancestors set, gone. The rough core blocks beneath are exposed. The pyramid you helped build is now naked, its skeleton showing. Its true face is the rough interior stone that was never meant to be seen. The unglamorous immortality you carried. The core blocks survive. The rough, ugly, unglamorous blocks that nobody polished. The ones your gang hauled up the ramp while the skilled men were doing the beautiful work. 4,500 years later, they are still there. They outlasted the beautiful parts. They outlasted everyone. In 1990, an American tourist's horse stumbles on the plateau and reveals a tomb. Archaeologists excavate. They find the workers' village. The bakeries. The breweries. The medical station. They find the graffiti names of the gangs. They find the graves with the skeletons of the workers, and crucially, they find that many of the injuries show healed fractures. These people received medical care. These people survived their accidents. Egypt valued its builders. They find the bones of Merit's bakery. The massive clay ovens, the grain storage pits, the bread molds. They calculate 86,000 loaves per day from the scale of the bakery infrastructure. She was exactly right, which surprises no one who would have known her. They find the graffiti. The quarry marks. The friends of Khufu, still there. 4,500 years later on a limestone surface, someone who was bored and proud scratched his gang's name, and it is still exactly where he left it. He was not bored. He was claiming something. History proved him right. Now the statistics. Because Egypt is a civilization that ran on counting, and it would be disrespectful to stop now. The pyramid contains approximately 2.3 million blocks. Average weight, 2.5 tons. Some granite blocks, 80 tons. Total mass, approximately 5.9 million tons. Footprint, 53,000 square meters. Height when built, 146.5 meters. It was the tallest human structure on Earth for 3,800 years. Nobody broke that record until Lincoln Cathedral in England, 1311 AD. Your personal contribution. In 7 seasons you helped move and place an estimated 4,000 blocks. That is approximately 10,000 tons of stone guided safely up the ramps by your ropes. 10,000 tons of stone that is still there. Your farm fed your family for 40 years and dissolved back into the delta mud. Your stone is still stacked. Draw your own conclusion. What you ate, total. Over 7 seasons on the plateau, 70 loaves of bread per week, 2 jugs of beer per day, fish twice per week, garlic and onions daily, beef roughly once per week in later years when your status increased. Total calories consumed in service of the pharaoh's afterlife, approximately 3.6 million. Egypt fed you more than your farm fed you. You were well-maintained equipment. Your medical record. 7 years of plateau work. 2 rope burns, serious. 1 sprained shoulder from a sledge overload. Persistent calluses requiring honey poultice treatment. 1 infected foot from limestone grit, cleared with copper salt solution. Minor eye injury from limestone dust. No fractures. You were lucky. The bones in the workers' cemetery tell different stories. The wages. Each levy worker received 10 bread loaves per day, 2 beer jugs per day, salted fish, garlic and onions. Skilled workers received additional rations. In copper deben value, the unit of account used when trade was needed, a skilled rope handler in good standing earned approximately 10 to 12 deben of copper equivalent per month. An ox cost 50 deben. You were worth 1/5 of an ox per month. This seemed fair at the time. Why did Egypt succeed where every other ancient civilization attempting something similar failed? Organization. The pyramid is not a mystery of lost technology. It is a mystery of logistics. How do you feed 20,000 people in a desert? How do you source stone from 800 kilometers away? How do you coordinate 100 gangs working simultaneously without confusion? The answer is papyrus. Egypt invented the first large-scale project management system. The pyramid is made of stone and paperwork. The rope. Let's discuss the rope properly, since it was your entire career. Pyramid ropes were made of papyrus fiber or halfa grass. A typical hauling rope was 15 centimeters in circumference, strong enough to hold 18 tons of load. They wore out fast. Rope making was a continuous industry at the plateau, teams making new rope as fast as old rope failed. You were the critical interface between the raw material and the load. The rope was everything. The alignment. The pyramid's base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across its entire 230-meter base. In a world without modern tools. They achieved this by flooding the base area with water from the Nile and marking the waterline. Then draining it and cutting the stone down to the watermark. A simple principle. Brilliant application. Egypt looked at the Nile, which is perfectly level, and used the Nile to measure everything else. The sarcophagus mystery, revisited. The Aswan granite sarcophagus in the king's chamber is 1 centimeter narrower than the ascending passage entrance, the only route by which it could have been installed. So either the measurements of the passage changed after the sarcophagus was placed, or the sarcophagus was placed during construction before the passage was built around it. Or there is a third option that archaeologists do not agree on. This has been being argued about for 300 years. It will continue being argued about. The workers' graffiti is the most human part of all of this. Not the engineering. Not the scale. Not the theology. The fact that bored, proud, aching men scratched their names and their gangs' names and occasional editorial comments into the stone of the construction site, and that 4,500 years later we can still read their handwriting. History is mostly anonymous. These men refuse to be. What happened to Khammezid, historically speaking? Men like him, levy workers who showed scribal aptitude, sometimes rose into the administration. The plateau was one of Egypt's great social mobility engines. More people moved from peasant to professional status through the construction projects than through almost any other route. The pyramid was also an escalator. If you knew what the ropes were for. A note on what we think we know about the pyramids versus what Hollywood gave us. Cecil B. DeMille gave us slaves with whips. The whip myth. Except the workers' bones show healed injuries, not execution injuries. The papyrus records show wages and rations, not punishment tallies. The villages had medical care. Whips are efficient for terror but useless for precision construction. You cannot build to a 2.1 centimeter levelness margin by whipping people. You need skilled, motivated, fed people who care about their craft. Which is what Egypt built. Merit's tally system was a form of double-entry accounting. Every bread loaf she dispatched was recorded against a grain allocation received. If the numbers did not match at end of day, she found the error before sleeping. Every day. For 15 years. She is not in any history books. Her ovens are in the archaeological report as Structure J, Building Complex 7. She would have had thoughts about this. The boat that capsized in Part 53, 3 boatmen drowned. In the ancient Egyptian accounting system, their loss was noted on a papyrus as lost personnel, deducted from the nome's levy quota, and the nome was required to provide replacement workers within 30 days. Efficient and terrible. 3 men died and they became a deduction. History records everything except the thing that matters. The Nile made all of this possible. Not just the water and the boats. The Nile made the black soil that grew the grain that fed the workers that moved the stones. The Nile flood made the workers available, because during the flood you cannot farm. The flood is the pyramid's partner. Egypt did not build despite the Nile. Egypt built because of the Nile. Every stone is, in some sense, a gift from water. 4,500 years after your last day on the plateau, a group of physicists used cosmic ray muons, subatomic particles that penetrate stone, to scan the pyramid's interior. They found a previously unknown void above the Grand Gallery. A large chamber that nobody had entered in 4,500 years. An empty space inside your stone. A secret the pyramid has been keeping since before Rome existed. No one knows what the void is for. Storage? A relieving chamber for weight distribution? Something else entirely? Egyptian authorities have not opened it. They may never open it. Some things inside a machine built for eternity may deserve to stay sealed. Or maybe the foreman put something in there and did not record it on the papyrus. Egypt forgive him. The pyramid at sunrise, as you saw it on your last morning. The white casing stones reflected light before the sun was fully up, as if the pyramid was lit from inside. As if it had already absorbed enough sunlight to give some back. The Egyptians called this the place where the sun is born. You watched from the road south, your bundle on your back, and for a moment you stopped walking. Every person who has ever seen this at dawn has stopped walking. The pyramid was not the only monument. The Sphinx was being carved at the same time, from a limestone outcrop left by the quarrying. The plateau workers passed by it every day. At some point in the early cutting, it looked like a very large confused lion. Gradually it became the royal face. You walked past it so often you stopped seeing it. This is how humans work with things that are too large to look at every day. The workers who built the pyramid were not just Egyptian. Records suggest Nubian workers from the south. Workers from Canaan, from Libya, from further delta regions with different dialects. The plateau was a city of accents. When Chaim Wazit called himself the plateau's translator, it was not entirely a joke. He could negotiate in 3 dialects because the plateau required it. The greatest engineering project in history was also an exercise in multiculturalism. The stone does not know where the hands were from. A modern calculation of what the project would cost. The most careful estimates place the total manpower at 20,000 workers per peak construction year, over 20 years. At modern construction labor rates, the labor cost alone would be approximately $1.2 billion. The quarrying, transportation, and material costs, another $3 to $4 billion. Total project estimate, between $5 and $6 billion. The annual GDP of ancient Egypt at the time was a fraction of this. Building the pyramid was the equivalent of building 20 Burj Khalifas simultaneously. With copper tools. Why did Egypt stop building pyramids after a few centuries? The cost, eventually. The pyramids bankrupt every nome they touched. A later pyramid, Menkaur's, is noticeably smaller. The dynasty after that, smaller still. Eventually the hidden rock-cut tombs in the Valley of the Kings replace them, better security, far cheaper. The pyramid era ends not with drama but with accounting. The same way everything ends. The papyrus column said no. Herodotus visits Egypt in 450 BC, 2,000 years after you. He asks the Egyptians about the pyramid. They tell him it was built by a cruel tyrant Pharaoh who enslaved the people. They have been telling this story for so long that it has become the story. The workers' villages are buried. The gang graffiti is covered in sand. The bread ovens are silent. All that is visible is the stone, and the stone says nothing except that it is here. The slave story stuck for 2,000 years. It took archaeology, the physical bones, the actual papyrus records, the healed fractures, the bread ovens, to correct it. The truth needed physical evidence to defeat a myth. This happens in history more often than we would like. The good news, the evidence was in the bones. The bones told the truth. Your bones, not in the cemetery, lost in the delta mud, would have told it too. Your greatest contribution to human history may not be the stones you moved. It may be that you went home. That you taught your son. That the son taught his son. That somewhere in the chain of people who learn to read the Nile and tend the barley and splice the rope and understand that the work and the return are both necessary, somewhere in that chain is a farmer who, when the Romans come to Egypt 500 years after you, knows how to adapt without losing what matters. The pyramid's interior is in almost perfect darkness. Has been for 4,000 years. Absolute darkness. No light has touched the king's chamber naturally since the entrance was sealed. When modern explorers with torches enter, they are the first light in that room since the priests left. The Pharaoh's ascension machine has been waiting in the dark for so long that the waiting is itself almost a spiritual act. The stone is patient. The stone is very good at waiting. What do people know about pyramid builders today? Mostly aliens. The alien theory persists because people underestimate what human organization, human stubbornness, and human pride can achieve when properly fed and managed. The pyramid is not a mystery of technology. It is proof of what happens when 20,000 people who care about their work eat enough bread and have someone who notices which stones are their gang stones. Aliens are simpler. But the bread and the rope are more interesting. The Giza Plateau today. 3 pyramids. The Sphinx. Millions of tourists per year. Souvenir sellers. Sound and light shows. A Pizza Hut visible in early photographs, now removed after outcry. $17 entry fees. Camel rides. And under all of it, still, in the sand, the workers' city, the boat pits, the quarry marks, the bread ovens, and the bones of people who moved stone because the state said so, and who left their names in the quarry anyway, just so someone would eventually know. Merit's clay seal. After you died, your son kept it as a lucky charm, as we established. His son also kept it. At some point in the 3rd or 4th generation, it was lost, possibly in the Nile, possibly in a house fire, possibly simply worn smooth until the design was unreadable and it was set aside as an ordinary piece of clay. The administrative seal of a woman who ran the bread supply for the greatest construction project in human history became a smooth pebble in a child's pocket. And then not even that. But the bread ovens are still there. And when an archaeologist found them in 1990, she found one oven with carbon residue that could be dated. And the carbon in the ash from Merit's oven, from the fire that baked the bread that fed the workers that moved the stone, gave a date. 2530 BC, plus or minus 75 years. The fire was real. The bread was real. Merit was real. The ash remembered. Khammezit, historically. Ramesses II, not from our story, 2 centuries later, named one of his sons Khammezit. That Prince Khammezit became one of the first archaeologists in history, restoring ancient monuments and adding inscriptions identifying their original builders so they would not be forgotten. He visited the pyramids. He restored some of their texts. He thought names should be remembered. Maybe every Khammezit in every generation carries a version of that impulse. Don't forget who built the thing. The last piece. The pyramid ion. The golden capstone. Nobody knows where it went. No golden capstone has ever been found from any Egyptian pyramid. Not one. If it was gold or electrum, and the texts suggest it was removed and melted down at some point in the long centuries of Egypt's decline. The top of the machine for becoming the sun was sold for scrap. The most sacred part. The point of all the work. Gone first, while the rough core blocks your gang moved remain absolutely and defiantly in place. Now hear what none of this can erase. You were a free man who chose, within the limits of a state that gave you few choices, to do the work well. You learned the rope. You read the rope. You passed it on. The pyramid was not your dream. The Pharaoh's ascension was not your dream. Your dream was the narrow strip of black earth and your son growing taller. But you were also here. And the stone remembers, even when the papyrus and the clay seals and the names in paint have gone. The stone remembers the weight of your rope. Now the final accounting. Your levy lasted 8 months the first year, instead of the agreed 3. You were never compensated for the extra time in copper. You were compensated in bread and beer, which you consumed. The state owned your time and called it honor. You received genuine medical care. You received better food than your farm provided. You built something that is still standing. The ledger of your life does not balance neatly. No ledger from this era does. Your total distance traveled in service of the pyramid, the walk from your village to the plateau and back, 7 times, approximately 140 kilometers per round trip. 7 round trips, 980 kilometers walked in sandals or barefoot on the desert road. The distance from Cairo to Luxor is 670 kilometers. You walked more than that, total, just getting to and from work. Every ancient road in Egypt runs through the bones of people who walked it for reasons that seemed necessary at the time. The Nile's gift to the pyramid builders was not just water. The silt left after each flood, the black earth, the kemet, which is where the word chemistry comes from, by the way, made Egyptian agriculture the most productive in the ancient world. Egypt fed itself on 3% of its total land area. The rest, desert. The Nile made that 3% so productive that Egypt could feed 20,000 construction workers and still export grain to neighboring kingdoms. The pyramid is, ultimately, a gift from the flood. The question nobody asks about the pyramid: what did it feel like to watch something grow? You arrived and it was a certain height. You left 8 months later and it was higher. You came back the next year and it was higher still. 7 years later and it was nearly complete. You watched a mountain being assembled one stone at a time, each one carried by people you knew, with ropes you understood. There is nothing else in human experience exactly like this. The closest we have today is watching a city rise from a construction site over years. But no city has ever been this singular, this purposed, this pointed at one specific star. What would Khufu think of the pyramid today? The casing stones are gone. The capstone is gone. The interior is tourist traveled and academic argued. His mummy never arrived. His body is somewhere, eaten by time, probably, Or perhaps still hidden in an undiscovered chamber. The machine built for him never quite fired as intended. Or perhaps it did. He wanted to become the sun. The sun is still there. He is made of star stuff now, as we all are. By that measure, mission accomplished. Everything you feared about your time on the plateau, the cold nights, the extension of the levee, the inspector's papyrus, the weight of the stone, none of that was what changed you. What changed you was the rope. Knowing when it would fail. Learning to tell by touch and sound that the thing holding everything together was about to give. And knowing that the answer was not to panic but to splice and continue. You brought this home. You applied it to barley. You applied it to your son. Knowing when the rope is about to fail is the oldest skill in the world. The sun rises over the Giza plateau right now. At this moment you are watching this. The shadow of the pyramid moves across the stone in the same arc it has moved every day for 4,500 years. The pyramid does not know you are watching it. It does not need to know. It was built for one specific god to ascend one specific star. The fact that we are still here watching it is an accident it was never designed for. But the stone does not mind accidents. The stone is very patient about what people do in front of it. Here is what the workers' cemetery tells us. Many of the men buried there show signs of spinal compression, consistent with decades of heavy lifting. Many show healed fractures, and not just one. Multiple healed fractures, meaning they were injured, treated, recovered, and went back to work, repeatedly. These were not men who were broken by the pyramid and discarded. These were men who were broken by the pyramid and repaired and asked to continue, and who continued. Amenhotep the sandal maker from your gang. After his cracked rib in part 35, he served out his levy and returned to his village. He made sandals for 40 more years. He is credited, in a papyrus found at a different site, with a sandal design that used a wider toe strap to reduce slippage on river mud. Probably developed, the scholar's note suggests, from experience with rocky construction sites. He applied the plateau to sandals. This is what learning looks like when it survives. Nebwenef the boat builder. After his reassignment to the Nile dock in part 52, he repaired boats for the remaining construction period. He then petitioned, successfully, to remain at the dock as a permanent royal boatyard worker. He never went back to moving stone. He talked about the plateau for the rest of his life. He never admitted to missing it. One more number, 30 million. The approximate number of visitor days at Giza per year in recent times. 30 million people per year going to look at the thing your hands helped hold together. None of them are looking for you. They are looking at the Pharaoh's machine, the wonder of the world, the alien mystery, the Instagram backdrop. But they are standing where you stood. They are standing on the dust of your levee camp. The plateau received you. It receives them the same way. Without comment. With permanence. You were a pyramid builder. Your name is gone. Your rope is dust. Your bread has been eaten and the energy from it was spent 4,500 years ago, burned into the limestone of the planet's most famous structure. You are the most invisible important person who ever lived. Your work is the most visited place on Earth. You received no ticket to the opening ceremony. The stone does not charge admission. The stone does not need to. It simply remains, because remaining is what it was made for, by hands like yours, that understood the rope. Final score. Blocks moved by the Friends of Khufu gang over 7 seasons, approximately 28,000. Total weight of stone guided by your ropes, roughly 70,000 tons. Injuries sustained, 11, all treated. Overtime worked beyond your levy agreement, approximately 140 days. Overtime compensation received, 0 copper deben. Extra bread received instead, an estimated 1,400 additional loaves. You can calculate what you think of that trade. Egypt already did. One thing they do not tell you in school, the pyramid smelled. During construction, 20,000 working bodies in the desert sun, animal dung used as fuel for the copper smelting workshops, bread baking, fish drying, beer fermenting, limestone dust, resin torches burning. The plateau smelled like a city. It smelled like a living thing. The perfect mathematical machine was also, at the time of its making, an enormous, hot, loud, fragrant mess of humans doing what humans do. The Nile flood is red-brown, not blue. It carries eroded red soil from the Ethiopian highlands. For a few weeks each year, the river that gives Egypt life runs the color of old blood. When you walked north to the plateau in your first year, the river was in early flood, red-brown and rising, carrying the future of Egypt's harvest in the form of suspended silt. You walked beside a red river toward a stone mountain. This was your whole situation in one image. Red river, stone mountain, rope on your shoulder. The pyramid casts no shadow at noon on the spring equinox. The Egyptians designed this intentionally. The pyramid was oriented so that twice a year, the equinoxes, it has no shadow at midday. It becomes, briefly, a shadowless stone mountain. A solid object that casts no darkness. You saw this once, in month 3 of your first season. You were carrying water. You looked up and the pyramid cast no shadow, and you stopped and stared at it for long enough that the foreman shouted at you. You think about that moment still, on a farm in the Delta, years later. In 2013, a papyrus was found at Wadi al-Jarf on the Red Sea coast. The diary of a man named Mirror, an inspector who supervised the transport of Tura limestone for the pyramid. It is the oldest papyrus document ever discovered. It describes boats, delivery schedules, ration counts, inspectors' routes. It is thrillingly ordinary. A bureaucratic diary from 4,500 years ago that reads, emotionally, like every construction site manager's logbook ever written. The pyramid was boring from the inside. And completely extraordinary. Mirror's diary mentions the workers' villages. It mentions ration deliveries. It does not mention your name, or anyone like you. You were below the administrative visibility threshold. Mirror's diary tracks limestone blocks, not the people whose ropes moved them. This is history's oldest problem. The people who did the work and the people who wrote about the work were rarely the same people. The quarry graffiti is the exception. The workers wrote their own record in stone because no one else was going to. The copper chisel. Your tool issue in part 16. Copper is soft, softer than granite, softer than hard limestone. Egyptian stonecutters had to resharpen their copper chisels every few minutes when working granite. The sharpening was done on site, by smiths who did nothing but sharpen copper tools all day. The pyramid was made possible by people whose entire job was keeping other people's tools usable. The sharpener was as important as the cutter. Egypt understood that every element of the chain must work. Merit left the plateau. This is a fact we know because it is the most likely outcome. The construction wound down, the workers' settlement was gradually reduced, the bakeries scaled back. Merit's administrative position would have been phased out as the feeding requirement dropped from 20,000 to maintenance levels. She returned to wherever she came from, or moved to Memphis, or took a position in a provincial grain administration. The plateau gave her 7 or 8 years of complete authority and then returned her to the ordinary world. We do not know if she found it a demotion or a relief. The pyramid's interior temperature, 20 degrees Celsius, year-round, regardless of the desert heat outside. This is a result of the thermal mass of 5.9 million tons of limestone. When modern researchers first measured this, they thought their instruments were wrong. The massive stone moderates heat so perfectly that the interior is always room temperature. The Pharaoh's ascension machine also, accidentally, invented air conditioning. The Egyptians were not trying to do this. The stone just did it, because the stone is very, very thorough. The star the pyramid points to. The descending passage of the Great Pyramid is aligned to the North Pole Star, specifically, at the time of its construction, to the star Thuban in the constellation Draco, which was the North Pole Star in 2500 BC due to the precession of the equinoxes. The North Pole Star changes over time. Polaris, which is north today, was not north then. The pyramid was built pointing at a star that is no longer north. The machine was correct for its time. Time moved the target. The machine did not adjust. Stone does not adjust. You are a pyramid builder and you did not know you were building a lesson. The lesson, that civilization is not built by heroes or gods or aliens or tyrants with whips. It is built by 20,000 people eating bread and moving stone because the organization exists to feed them and the work exists to be done. It is built by the merger of the willing and the required, the proud and the exhausted, the man who splices the rope and the woman who counts the bread and the boy with the black eye who learns to write. Here is the thing about the stone. Every block in the Great Pyramid was cut from a quarry. In the quarry, there is a moment when the stone is still part of the earth, when it is bedrock, continuous, connected. The chisel changes that. The block becomes individual. It is separated from everything it was attached to and moved to become part of something new. Every block in the pyramid was once part of the earth. The pyramid is the earth, rearranged. The rearranging is what we call civilization. The last statistic. Of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Colossus of Rhodes, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, the temple of Artemis at Ephesus, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the lighthouse of Alexandria, the hanging gardens of Babylon, 6 are gone. Destroyed by fire, earthquake, neglect, or simple time. One remains. The oldest one. The one built first. The one built by the friends of Khufu and the drunkards of Menkaure and the people who spliced the rope and counted the bread. The unglamorous machine for becoming the sun. It is still there. The pyramid does not need your awe. This is something you understood on the plateau in month 7. It doesn't need anything. It is 5.9 million tons of organized stone and it has been there since before Rome was a village and it will be there after everything you know is geological deposit. It does not need to be impressive. It simply is. Your awe is free of charge and entirely optional. The pyramid offers the same experience to every person who has ever stood before it in 4,500 years. Here I am. What did you think I was? You. Right now. Watching this. You have something in common with the pyramid builder. Not the stone moving. Not the beer and the bread. The thing you share is this: you are doing something right now that will outlast you in one form or another. You are making choices that will become part of the structure that the next generation stands on. You are either splicing the rope or you are ignoring the fraying sound it makes. The difference between those two options is the difference between a civilization and a collapse. Egypt chose to splice. One last thought about Meret's bread. Every morning, in the dark before the sun rose over the plateau, her bakeries were already running. The fire was already lit. The dough was already in the clay molds. By the time the first work gang reached the ramp, the bread was ready. She never failed to have the bread ready. In 7 years. Every day. 86,000 loaves. No foreman ever had to tell her gang that the bread was late. The pyramid was possible because Meret's bread was never late. The workers who built the pyramid were not performing a civic duty. That framing is too small. They were participating in something that their entire civilization told them was the difference between the sun rising and the sun not rising. Between the Nile flooding and the Nile failing. Between the black earth returning and the black earth staying barren. They were not moving stone. They were ensuring that tomorrow would come. No amount of overtime pay covers that. But understanding it might. History is not made by people who knew they were making history. It is made by people trying to get to the end of the day with enough bread and a working rope and someone who remembers their name. The pyramid was made by both, the vision of the architects and the endurance of the workers. Neither alone was sufficient. The stone needed the calculation and the calculation needed the stone and the stone needed the rope and the rope needed the hands and the hands needed the bread and the bread needed Meret and Meret needed the fire and the fire needed the fuel and the fuel needed the Nile and the Nile needed no one. It just flowed. The Great Pyramid of Giza has been standing for 4,500 years. In that time, it has been a wonder, a quarry, a tourist attraction, a mathematical puzzle, a religious site, a shooting location, a geopolitical symbol, and an argument. In all that time, it has never been finished. The casing is gone. The capstone is gone. The interior is partly accessible and partly unknown. It was complete once, for a few centuries. Then it began its long transformation back toward something else. All things do. The only question is the pace. You are the pyramid builder. You have always been the pyramid builder. Anyone who has done work that outlasts them, work that was harder than the compensation justified, work they did anyway because the organization needed it or the craft demanded it or the rope was fraying and no one else was going to fix it, you are the pyramid builder. This is not a metaphor. This is what the word means. Pyramids are just what some civilizations call the thing they pointed their best effort at. Every civilization has one. Not all of them are still standing. The last thing the pyramid builder did that we can prove. Some of them inscribed their names in the workers' cemetery with their own hands. Not in the gangs. Personally. A man who had spent his life moving stone that would never have his name on it found a piece of limestone for his own grave marker and cut his own name into it himself. He did not pay a scribe. He cut slowly, probably, not being a cutter by trade. The letters are slightly uneven. But they are there. And they have been there for 4,500 years, and they are the most important thing in this entire video. End. Not of the pyramid. Not of Egypt. Not of the Nile. End of this particular telling of one particular rope handler's particular 7 flood seasons. He went home. He grew old. His name faded. His stone did not. The bread was eaten and the energy was spent and the block is still in position, give or take 4,500 years of tourism. The rope is gone. The splice held long enough. The hands that made it are dust somewhere in the delta mud. The pyramid, as always, has nothing to add. If you are still here, you are the person this video was made for. The kind of person who wants to know what the bread tasted like and how the rope felt and whether Nebwenef really cried when he got his boat job back. This is Eyes of a Warrior. We make these for the people who know that history is not made of dates and kings. It is made of tools and food and people who refuse to be entirely forgotten. We will be back with more. In the meantime, go check on your ropes. One more thing. The quarry inscription, "The Friends of Khufu were here," is real. It was discovered by Egyptologist Mark Lehner's team during the excavation of the workers' village at Giza. The gang name is genuinely recorded in ancient Egyptian as the Friends of Khufu. There are other gang names too. The Drunkards of Menkaure is also real, also from the archaeological record. These men named themselves and their names survived. We owe them the courtesy of knowing that. The pyramid builder wants nothing from you. He has been fine for 4,500 years. But if you find yourself someday standing before the Great Pyramid, or before any large, old, permanent thing made by human hands, do this: look for the seam between two blocks. Put your hand on it. Somewhere behind that seam is a rope handler's work. Somewhere behind that rope handler is a foreman's count. Somewhere behind that count is a scribe's tally. And somewhere behind all of it is a woman in the dark before dawn, making sure the bread was ready. Find that chain. That is history. That is also the present. This was eyes of a warrior. We are small. The stone is large. The bread is eaten. The rope holds. Thank you for watching. If this story moved something in you, the way 20,000 people moved 5.9 million tons, leave a like. Subscribe and ring the bell so the next story finds you. Every subscriber is a name in the record. We keep counting. The count is how we know what was built. Your son's name. You told it to no one on the plateau. Not even Merit. Not even Kaim weighs it. You kept your son's name off the plateau, kept it in the delta, kept it in the mud and the barley and the world that the plateau could not touch. This was the one thing you refused to give to the construction site. The stone could have your rope work and your 7 flood seasons and your shoulders and your bread. It could not have his name. Your last day on the plateau. You stand at the edge of the ramp with your tool bundle and your pay allocation papyrus and Merit's clay seal in your hand. The friends of Khufu are already someone else's gang, led by a new foreman. The dormitory you slept in has new men in it. The plateau has already moved past you, the way the Nile moves past one particular reed. One last thing before we part. The pyramid was opened by Arab scholars in 820 AD, Caliph al-Ma'mun's engineers. They tunneled through the stone to find the legendary treasure. They found the king's chamber. Empty. Either the treasure was never there or it was removed long before. They found only the empty granite sarcophagus. Open at the top. No lid. No king. No gold. Just the granite box and the echo of their own voices in an empty room that had been silent for 3,300 years. Khufu's body was never found. No mummy. No canopic jars. No grave goods. Nothing attributable with certainty to the man who commissioned the greatest construction project in history. The only confirmed image of Khufu ever found is a statuette, 3 inches tall, ivory, found in 1903. The man who built the largest monument on Earth survives in one image the size of a finger. History has a sense of scale. Here is what the pyramid builder wants you to take with you. The rope matters. The bread matters. The count matters. The name on the stone matters. What you do in the time you have, in the gang you are given, with the tools you are issued, this is what remains. Not the grand gesture. Not the gold cap at the top. The rough core block, set true, holding weight, in position still after 45 centuries. That is the whole lesson. Set it true. Hold the weight. Be in position. The rest is ceremony. The pyramid casts its shadow west at dawn. It has done this every single morning for 4,500 years, without exception, without interruption, without anyone's permission. You were part of the reason it can do that. Your rope steadied the stone that sits in the course that bears the weight of the courses above it that support the apex that casts the shadow. The shadow moves. The stone holds. You were here.